So thank you everyone for joining. I'm going to introduce Mindy Robbins. So Mindy Robbins, LCSW, is the founder and clinical director of their practice Affirming You based in Phoenix, Arizona. Mindy believes in the power of community and relationships for healing and utilizes interventions with a trauma-informed, gender, and neurodiverse affirming approach. Mindy specializes in gender-affirming care, offers professional supervision and training, and collaborates with other practices and community programs in Phoenix. Welcome, Mindy.
Thank you. So I'm excited to be here and share with you all about the importance of paid internships. And it was great to hear so many people be passionate about that. So I run a group practice. I employ over 20 people who are both staff and interns across Arizona. I also run an internship training program where interns can complete their internship with a specialty in gender affirming care and neurodiversity care, and they get training from people all over the country of different backgrounds and specialties. And I train other practices on how to do that and how to structure their businesses in order to pay interns. So why do we do this? Why is it important? So as we know, our MSW programs, they're important because they structure how students are able to receive education and connect them with their field placements and provide that field placement learning. And the importance of our internships is we take that learning that you get from school and we give you the essential skills that you need to apply it to practice. And if we make those internships paid, then we're supporting our students financially, which helps enhance their learning and professional growth. Where you're not paying for your internship yourself, you're getting paid to be there, and your knowledge is valuable. So the role of internships in our MSW education gives us our practical hands-on experience. It takes, okay, I know this theory, but what do I do with it? It increases our professional development and where we're learning not only client care, case management, but also our ethical decision making, right? We can hear those in theory, but then, we have all these niche things that come up that's like, oh, what do? I need my support of my supervisor. I need to learn how to manage crisis situations or things on the fly. And it also is our networking and career advancement, right? We hope we land in an internship we really like, we learn a lot, and we get a job. That would be ideal. So why we should pay our interns as one, financial barriers. There's just financial barriers to being able to go to school, afford school, and to be able to have the time for an internship. So for me, myself, I worked 40 hours, I interned 20 hours, and I went to school. And not everyone can do that. And it wasn't necessarily something healthy for me or on my body at that time. It also creates equitable and accessible internships if they're paid, right? There are people who have the benefit of okay, my parents are going to support me and I'm going to go to school, and that's wonderful. I wish everyone had that. But that's not equitable and accessible to all of us. So if we can provide some support, then that will bring in more options for interns and more diversity. And then if you're a company that provides paid internships, this is something that's good for the business owner, and the benefit for them is you're more recognized as for your contributions, and people are like, oh, that place provides paid internships. They're really showing they align with social work values. They're advocating for certain things. So it's good for business owners to, one, that should be your values in the first place, but two, it also can show people who maybe are looking at your practice that you do practice within those values. And then, like I said, encourages diversity. You're going to get more people from all different places of life, who are able to access your internship because it's paid. I think I was telling Aiden when we first spoke, I even got interns who were not social workers just because it was a paid internship. And I was like, oh, this is not an engineering internship, it's for social work. So sometimes you might have to weed out more applicants, and sometimes there's pros and cons to that as well. Benefits to offering paid internships for employers. So if you're advocating to an employer, your employer yourself, right, they're going to want to know like, okay, I could do it, but like, what's the benefit for the company? What's the benefit for me? So some things I'll talk to people about are it offers a more cost-effective approach. So if you're a practice owner that recently opened a practice and maybe you're not ready to hire employees or full-time staff, you're not there financially yet. Interns are a great way to kind of bridge that gap where they're part-time, and you're not having to pay full-time benefits for somebody if you're not ready. There's lots of health benefits for paid internships. So, right, if we're paying people, my staff and interns, one thing that they always acknowledge with me is I can tell Mindy really values my time. And I value people's time, and I'm like, hey, here's what you're doing. You're getting paid for this. And the rest of the time, I want you to be able to take care of yourself, to travel, to spend time with your friends and family, because that's really what our life is about. It shouldn't all be about work, even if we're really passionate about it. Increased commitment. So if we're paying someone, they're more committed to the agency. One, because it increases trust, like, oh, I trust that you value my work, so I'm more likely to provide quality work to you if I feel like I'm getting quality supervision or whatever out of it. And it offers opportunities for full-time employment. So if you're an employer, you're like, ugh, I can't hire a full-time person this year, but maybe next year I can. You can have an intern part-time, pay them for their time at maybe a lower intern rate. And then when they graduate, you'll then have the funds for someone full-time and they'll already be trained. So there's a huge benefit within that for employers. And then again, people want to make sure that their companies are reputable. And so paid internships often show like, hey, I'm socially responsible to this movement. And you're practicing what you're preaching with that. And then benefits to hiring interns over maybe part-time employees. I love interns and hiring interns because they're eager to learn. And I'm neurodivergent, so I love to just learn about this stuff, talk about this stuff, and maybe not always staff employees are that same way. They're like, hey, I'm here to do my job and go home. And that's also okay. And I support that. But interns love to learn and talk about it. They want to know your policies. They want to know that they're following board rules and regulations and state laws and advocating for change. They have access to a lot of research when you're in college, right? So if I'm like, hey, I want to write a blog on this, or hey, I want all the updated research on gender affirming care. So if we ever needed to advocate for our state as election comes up or for the work we're doing, we have it all ready to go. So they're a great resource for that. They have strong writing and research skills. And they offer cost-effective support. So we have a full-time admin. We're not yet ready to hire a second one, but we probably need one. So interns then bridge that gap for us. They're able to help out our admin on certain days, and that helps prepare us to be able to pay and hire a second one in the future. And interns offer a fresh perspective. So they're going to ask lots of questions about your policies and procedures. And I think that's a wonderful, great thing because they also bring innovative ideas of how policies and procedures can change, how they could be better. If you have someone who's like, hey, this policy doesn't make sense, social work interns are great to be like, you're right, help me change it, and help them support you rather than, thinking it's a conflict. And so I have a couple testimonials of some of our past interns who have shared their experience. Am I okay on time or am I at time?
You
I
have
wasn't looking.
another minute or two.
Okay, so I'll share a couple of these. So this is Andrea, one of our former interns. She says, I chose the 3-year Master Social Work program at ASU with a 2-year internship requirement. I worked full-time my first year, but realized very quickly that working 40 hours, attending classes 9 to 12 hours, interning 16 hours out of the week was not ideal. Having to shift to part-time, it was essential for me to find a paid internship, and I was lucky to have 2. As someone who supports myself 100%, having paid internships really offsets many challenges I would have faced, such as burnout from keeping my full-time job while attending school and interning, or financial hardship from cutting my salary in half. Another important distinction is that while we are still students, we contribute a great deal of service to our communities, and it is essential for us to set a standard in the field and compensate us for our work. Paying interns should not be a choice, but a requirement for schools and for partnering agencies to maintain integrity of our field and ensure well-being of our social work students. And this is similar to what you were saying, Cicely, about paying for your internship, so I'll share this one. I was very grateful to have had a paid internship in both my undergrad and graduate programs. This helped me out tremendously as I have to pay for most of my tuition out of pocket, which means I essentially pay to do an internship. Having a paid internship allowed me to focus more on my academics and less on money, which is a common stressor for college students. It also made me feel more inclined to stay at my agency post-graduation, as I felt valued for the work that I was doing as an intern. I think more companies should offer opportunities for paid internships, as not all majors require them, and it shouldn't feel like a burden for those students who are in programs that do. And I know we'll have a question section, but here's my contact information. I didn't put too much information
Thank you
on
so much,
business
Mindy. And
structures and
now we'll
things like
continue the
that.
discussion
But
with
if you
Stacey
or somebody you know
Rupolo.
is wanting
Stacey
to know more
Rupolo,
about that,
MSW,
feel free to reach
LSW,
out
is a
to
clinical
me and I'm
social
happy to
worker at Practical
discuss
Magic
that more.
Healing, based in Chicago, Illinois. She co-founded the Loyola chapter of P4P and continues to advocate for the cause as an alumni. Stacey's praxis with individuals, couples, and communities is deeply rooted in trauma-informed, abolitionist, and anti-racist frameworks. Welcome, Stacey.
All right, so this presentation might be more focused on kind of the business side of, so we pay our interns, what does that look like, and getting into some of those details. So it's pretty quick, so I wanted to save time for a lot of questions, so I'm just gonna get to it. So just a brief history of the practice where I work. Practical Magic Healing is a private practice based in Chicago. Our work is rooted in the intersection of queer, fat, and neurodivergent liberation practices. We have about 17 therapists on staff right now, I believe. And we've had over 12 interns since the practice was founded in 2020. But education and supporting early career clinicians has always been a cornerstone of the practice since it was opened. And that says 13. So 13 since 2020, and every single one of those interns has been paid. So why we pay our interns, besides, it's the right thing to do, it helps establish worth for social workers, which I think is sorely lacking in our field, especially from the education model that we have. When someone pays you, as we all know, it gives you a starting point to say the work I do is valued and I should be paid for it. So, we might not love capitalism, but we do live within it. And so people do need money to survive. And as social workers, we are called to call out systemic oppression and break those barriers. So, this reduces, in my view at least, reduces the potential for people to be exploited further down the line, because you're saying, no, wait, I should be paid for this work to begin with, and then it goes up from there, right? So we're just raising the bar for everyone. As a business, it also, the value that it gives us is loyalty to the practice from our interns, which you can really only get by investing in people and believing in them, and money is one of those things. So there are, I think of the 13 interns we've had, 4 of them have transitioned into full-time staff members. And as Mindy was saying earlier, that's just a huge benefit for us. We've found people who we know want to work here. They fit with the culture. They're here for the long haul with us, which for those of you who are in private practice, just know is invaluable, that you have people that if you invest in them, they'll invest back in you. So, since this is an intentionally smaller practice, this means we can grow sustainably. And that's just invaluable. Also, paying interns grounds us in the fact that we are living in systems that are created by colonialism and capitalism. And while I know a lot of us are really passionate about what we do, and like you need that in this field, that's not why we're here, right? We're here at a job because we need money in order to survive. There's secondary benefits, and that's great, but as people with strong values, I think it's also important for us as social workers to be rooted in these facts of, we don't have universal basic income. We don't have free healthcare for all. We don't have a well-funded, mental health and community care model in this country. And so we need to pay people, if we all wish it maybe wasn't that way. But the things that we fight against, capitalism, white supremacy, colonialism, they thrive off exploitation, and unpaid internships are a form of that. So as a practice, we just refuse to be a part of that. And I think this just goes back to, protecting people from exploitation, even if they don't stay with us, right? To say you should be paid for this work. It is hard work. So the way that we break down the costs of paying interns, like from a business perspective, is, paying for their clinical time. So there's they've got, 1-for-1 client-facing time. They get, we're previously getting a fee, like a percentage split fee for that, but we're moving towards a stipend model. And we can talk more about that in the Q&A portion, but there's you show up, you do a job, you need to get paid. There's also this like behind the scenes pay of, supervisors need to be paid for supervising the interns. And that's set at an hourly rate. So the LCSWs get paid an hourly rate for that time. We offer both individual and group supervision. And then there's also just these costs of like, when you add an account to your Gmail account, it costs you something monthly, simple practice logins costs stuff, Psychology Today profiles cost money. And then like the time and marketing that goes into, okay, hey, we've got this new staff therapist, they're looking for clients. So like all of that costs money. And then instruction and training, mandatory meetings, trainings, all of those things that either, that the business and practice provide for the interns, which is a part of their education. But these are kind of the more nitty-gritty, like this is what it costs the business. And so thinking about how do we take this sustainably into the future? Because as we all know here, this model can't be replicated 1-for-1 at each private practice, right? Everyone's going to have their own system based on the communities you're seeing, what schools you're working with, what state you're in, and all of that. So, but we also want to recognize that this needs to come from beyond the practices themselves. Universities have huge endowments. These insurance conglomerates can essentially tell us to, take our complaints elsewhere. And, so all of these stakeholders have skin in the game. And I think that we need to agitate upwards to tell them that paying social work interns and interns of any type is not just an organization's responsibility, but our responsibility as, a state organization or just healthcare organizations, so that interns are not just compensated for work, but fairly and well. I think that's like the next bar to reach for, which does include, punching up at some people. So that's my brief little run through. Here's my email address and our practice website. If you have any questions, I can also put this in the chat. Feel free to reach out. to me about any of this information or anything else. So I'll stop sharing here.